have found that I am fascinated by ships and ocean-going vessels. What fascinates me about that, can you imagine getting on a ship and leaving shore on the ocean and going beyond the horizon, and you're in this vast ocean, there's no landmarks, there's no road signs. How do you navigate? How do you find your destination? Navigation is really an art, and it's a science where you determine the position of your ship and you guide it to a specific destination. You know, you establish your relative location and your position according to other known locations. But when you're on the ocean, there's nothing out there. There's no landmarks. You don't see any trees. When you're flying, you know, if you're over land, at least you can kind of see things and kind of tell where you're at. But ocean-going vessels, once they leave sight of land, you're lost. I mean, you have to be able to navigate. Ancient sailors, they used to just stay within sight of land. That's how they would tell where they're going. But not too long ago, about 3,000 years ago, we found a record from the Minoans. They were a people that lived in the Mediterranean island of Crete. And what we found reading their records is they used the stars, first record of anybody that used stars or constellations to navigate the oceans. Over the years, you know, technology has improved ocean navigation. They kind of moved from just staying inside of land, and they began to use the stars. They have these things called sextants. It's kind of like a triangle, and you kind of determine your position, and you got to do a little math. I'd fail at that. Some people, I mean, they began to make maps. The compass came into existence. The chronometer, you know, that thing that it kind of does this and tells you where you're at on the horizon and what direction you're going. The wisest ocean-going sailors take their wives because their wives always know where they're going, right? And if they don't, they tell him, stop and ask somebody. You know, nowadays, we've got electricity. We've got things like satellites, you know, GPS. We have radar. You know, GPS is so accurate. They can pinpoint the location of a ship on the ocean down to about 10 meters. That's just fascinating. I promise you, if I ever had to pilot an ocean-going vessel, I'd be lost. I don't know how to use any of those things. But navigation and all of this technology has made it possible for us to leave point A to travel halfway around the world and arrive exactly where we wanted to arrive. I read a story here recently that in 1789, one of the captains on a pirate ship experienced mutiny. And they put him and a few of the people that were loyal to him in a little boat, and all they gave him was a sextant and a couple of cutlasses, you know, knives. He navigated 3,500 miles just by looking at the stars in a little oar-driven boat. That's just fascinating to me. But you know, just as oceans, those ocean-going vessels are able to navigate the open seas by using certain tools, you and I, we have tools that help us navigate life. The tool that helps us navigate life is our worldview. I don't know if you're familiar with that term, your worldview. It's the lens with which we see the world. Not only how we see the world, but how we see God, how we see other people, how you see yourself, how you see your past, your present, your future, how you see money, how you see time, how you see sex, evil, pressures, sufferings, problems. That's the lens that we look through. It helps us determine how we're going to live our life. And everybody's worldview is different. And even though those worldviews are different, you know, we can still identify a few major components of each particular worldview, and that's what I want to talk to you this morning about. Well, we're starting a sermon series on how to be courageous in this world. I think that's what many of us lack sometimes, is lack a little backbone, need a little courage, need to be able to stand up for your convictions. I think this world has, especially Christians, we've capitulated, we've given in, we've folded our tent, we've went home, and we've allowed the minority to be the loudest voice. We need to have courage. And I want to talk to you here. I want to give you a few of the popular anti-Christian worldviews. Now, the first one, if you're taking notes, they're on the back of your study guide there. The first anti-Christian worldview is materialism. I think that's a no-brainer. You probably understand and know what that is. That's the worldview that what matters most is money. You know, that we have this idea that life is all about the acquisition of stuff, just things. That's how we measure success. How much stuff do you have? The amount of wealth that I have indicates whether or not I've been successful. Now, I think almost everybody in here would agree that's a very shallow philosophy of life. Can life be boiled down to the philosophy and the question of how much stuff can I pile up? Just consider what happens when you die. You can't take that stuff with you. Someone else will end up with it. The stuff that you've worked several years to accumulate is going to belong to someone else. And Jesus saw this during His earthly ministry, and He addressed it. It's in Luke 12. Here's what Jesus had to say about the materialistic worldview. He said, life is not measured by how much you own. Pretty simple, isn't it? Life is not measured by how much you own. In other words, the value that you place on yourself is not measured by how much stuff you have in your possession. The number one goal in life is not to accumulate or make money. If that is your worldview, if you're